I'm asking, so you accept what is called the STEM, which was part of the apartheid regime, which suppressed black people like you and I, right? And people were killed over the STEM. Right? Can you, Minister, accept the STEM or accept the apartheid flag in the same way that you accept the STEM? Because the two go together.
No, the two goes together in your world, not in the real world. Because in the real world, the old flag does not exist anymore. So the STEM is part of the national anthem. I will accept it. You see, there's so many amongst you that wants us to still live in the past. We have moved on. You can stay there, but we no longer live there. South Africa has taken a decision that we are one nation under God. And when we've taken that decision, it comes with many contradictions. The STEM is part of who we were and who we've become. You cannot...
We have a so-called national anthem that still bears the hallmarks of apartheid. And in a situation in which we've gotten rid of the flag, the apartheid flag, it's peculiar that we get rid of the flag, but we keep the anthem. The two go together. They go together. You raise the flag so that you can sing the anthem. It is impossible for us to get rid of the one and then keep the other. The STEM needs to go. It is not to say we need to get rid of Afrikaans. We can find a replacement of Afrikaans. But the STEM needs to go. It is offensive. It needs to go.
With permission, I would like to speak lastly what Honorable Fana has said about the STEM being part of the national anthem. So I will not go through the indigenous games. I never thought I'd live in a world where MK, of all parties, vote against indigenous games for our people. I need to mention that because the people, I want to talk about what the IFP said. Babalituli, what you're saying is that we should look into school sport. It's very, very important, and we will definitely do that. We will then, I've got 5 minutes, so I have to go through everything quickly. The Freedom Front Plus, Dr. Corne Mulder, you know, it's true what you're saying, unity in diversity, and I definitely accept your invitation to go with you, to go and see your history. I would like to thank the ANC. The ANC, all the speakers of the ANC, I would like to thank you. You have truly shown that what this GNU should be and can be. Thank you very much. I would like to just talk about a very important issue. Doctor, let me start by giving my condolences once again. I've given it to you previously, but I would just like to repeat it for the loss of your daughter. My deepest and most sincerest condolences, and may God keep your family, may God give you strength. What your family has gone through is what we should make sure no family go through that again. And circumcision schools needs to be investigated. It cannot be that our children are being sent to die. I would also like to, in my last minute and a half, thank the Honorable Jacobs for that fiery speech and for what you've mentioned. But I also need just to rectify one thing you said. The first 75 million was the first amount. We have since given out other two interventions of money we've given out that will make up to the 300 million or come very close to it. Then lastly, without fear or any favor, when you take a decision, South Africa has taken a decision that we are one nation under God. And when we've taken that decision, it comes with many contradictions. The stem is part of who we were and who we've become. You cannot pinpoint some issues. We must protect the national anthem. We have one of the most beautiful national anthems. The meaning to the stem is being included there it's such an expression of how far we've come as a nation. I sing Nkosi Sikelele, God bless Africa, Sichava Saruna, as hard as I sing Eddie Blow Fana Seyema. We will not be ashamed to say we support this stem being part of the national anthem. We have moved on. We are one South Africa. You can go to the past. We don't live there anymore. Thank you very much.
You're not recognizing us, Chair. Chair. Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I take it's not his maiden speech anymore. Can the Honourable Minister take a question that says if he then accepts the apartheid flag? In the same way that he accepts the step.
Yeah. If we will accept the question,
ask him. There's no problem.
I'll accept the question.
You accept the question. Please ask your question. The time has expired, but ask your question.
I'm asking, so you accept what is called the stem, which was part of the apartheid regime, which suppressed black people like you and I, right? Yeah. And people were killed over the stem. Right?
Can you raise the question?
But can I speak, please, man? Can you, Minister, accept the stem or accept the apartheid flag in the same way that you accept the stem? Because the two go together. You raise a flag so that you sing the anthem. Thank you.
No, the two goes together in your world, not in the real world. Because in the real world, the old flag does not exist anymore. So the stem is part of the national anthem. I will accept it. You see, there's so many amongst you that wants us to still live in the past. We have moved on. You can stay there, but we no longer live there. We will sing the stem.
Thank you, Minister. Your time is...
Hey, this GNU is powerful, man.
Members, order please. Members are reminded that two debates are scheduled simultaneously for 2 o'clock. Can I have order please? Honourable member, can I have order please? Order please. Member, if you really want to speak, make sure that your name is added on the speakers list, then you can speak. Members are reminded that two debates are scheduled simultaneously for 2 o'clock today. The Higher Education and Training Budget debate will be held in the Goodhope Centre chamber, while the Public Works and Infrastructure Budget debate will take place in the committee room M46. That concludes the debate and the business for this mini-plenary session. The mini-plenary will now rise.
Interesting confrontation, guys. What do you think? I think the whole thing with this D-STEM, I'm actually just slowly reading up about it and understanding what it really means and how the Progressive Caucus are actually interpreting its inclusion still in the anthem of South Africa. But we know that Gaten McKenzie has always been for the government of national unity. He has always been for, even before the formation of government of national unity, during the multi-party charter, we saw that he was always for this South Africa, one South Africa mantra. And, you know, he actually would negate any form of a move or tactic that would want to disenfranchise that whole mantra, in that putting differences aside, but he actually wants to culminate and put together all South Africans to be one. So this was a really interesting confrontation. For me, I actually learned a little about the whole thing with the DSTEM, and it's really interesting how the EFF and the MK party actually reinterpret its inclusion still in the national anthem. But anyway, we actually still know that, you know, the sports and culture and minister Gaten McKenzie has actually announced plans to formalize and professionalize motorsport. So his goal for sports, actually, as the new minister, actually wants to really make spinning really popular in South Africa, you see. And so really interesting confrontation. What do you think? For this video, I just thought to just go through an appraisal of Gaten McKenzie's vision and objective for South Africa, especially from the perspective of sports, and also a little bit into the whole matter with DSTEM. And I will be looking forward to your comments to really understand how to interpret and place this aspect of the national anthem in South Africa. But anyway, we know that Sports and Culture and Arts Minister Gaten McKenzie, he has actually announced plans to formalize and professionalize motorsports, right? Especially spinning as an official sport in South Africa. And this announcement was actually made during his initial departmental budget vote in Parliament. That's his maiden speech, right? And so McKenzie, along with Deputy Minister Peace Maybear, actually presented to the department's budget on Tuesday. And during the debate, McKenzie addressed questions regarding the inclusion of this theme in the national anthem, and also a visit to the Food Trekker Monument. McKenzie is a first-time minister who actually transitioned from a convicted, we know that he transitioned from a convicted criminal to a businessman and now a politician, and he has actually attracted significant attention for his spontaneous remarks since the elections. McKenzie was one of the 32 ministers that were inaugurated almost 2 weeks ago, and in his budget speech on Tuesday, he reiterated his commitment to the formal recognition of spinning as a sport, which is a topic he has publicly discussed since his appointment as minister. House Chair, or as the new minister, actually, he actually says now, I'm heartened by the department's enthusiastic response to my interest in the emerging motorsport of spinning, and that this sport will be recognized, formalized, and professionalized with the sport of this department. That's what McKenzie said. Anyway, he argues that spinning is actually a sport that involves driving cars at high speeds in circles and performing stunts both inside and outside of the vehicle, and is said to be formalized according to Gaten McKenzie. McKenzie also highlighted the role of critical role of sports in schools, right? You know, he actually once said this mantra that, you know, a child in sports is a child out of the streets or so. So he actually emphasizes the role of sports in schools. He acknowledged the previous minister, Zizi Kodwa, who identifies school sports system as fragmented across government support programs, federation, and private schools. McKenzie mentioned actually that the former minister organized a school sports in Daba, which included and actually concluded that a comprehensive blueprint for school sports should be developed. He actually says that South Africa needs to advance with the new delivery model of school sports. Furthermore, McKenzie stated that the Department of Sports and Culture would actually collaborate with the Department of Basic Education to reinstate physical education as an independent subject in schools. Joe Magloire, who is chairperson of the Parliamentary Oversight Committee from the Democratic Alliance, emphasized the need for the department to partner with schools to identify and support talented students. IFP, Inkatha Freedom Party, also supported the departmental budget, but advocated for greater focus on sports development also in rural areas, right? So now let's get into the whole thing with the STEM debate. We saw that Mokoena was actually almost attacking Gaten McKenzie, and McKenzie actually also reported saying that, you know, the STEM will still represent a part of South Africa's anthem, and the STEM is actually a representation of who all South Africans are, although it might have been something rooted in the apartheid era, but it's a representation of what South Africans represent as persons. And so he argues that the STEM would. But anyway, let's try to understand it from a perspective of research. So during the debate, Fana Mokoena, who is from the Economic Freedom Fighters, actually questioned Minister Gaten McKenzie about his stance, as we saw in this video, on the STEM remaining part of the national anthem, right? Now, what is the STEM? Distem is actually a shortened form of Distem van Zuid-Afrika, right? Which is Afrikaans for the voice of South Africa, and is also known as the call of South Africa, simply represented as Distem. It was a national anthem during apartheid, and there were two versions, in English and also in Afrikaans, which was usually initiated alongside God Save the Queen in the Union of South Africa, and as a sole anthem after South Africa became a republic, right? Distem actually served as the sole national anthem from 1957 all the way to 1994, and shared co-national anthem status with God Save the Queen or King from 1938 to 1957. Now, following apartheid, it was retained as a co-national anthem with Nkosi Sikelel Africa until 1997, when a new hybrid anthem incorporating elements of both versions was now adopted as the anthem of South Africa. So that's a short history of this aspect. Mokoena argues Distem. Now, we're trying to interpret what Mokoena argues for in the inclusion of Distem in the national anthem. McKenzie reported saying that Distem is actually a part of who we are. We must protect our national anthem. He expressed pride in singing the entire anthem, calling it one of the most beautiful national anthems in the world. And he actually stated that this statement, which McKenzie just actually stated now, arguing that, you know, Distem is part of who we are, it actually received a lot of applause, as we saw in the video, while the EFF caucus continued to raise questions. Mokoena is actually a former TV soap star, and he actually asked McKenzie if, as we saw in the video as well, if he would permit the display of the apartheid era national flag, which he said actually oppressed black people like you and me. But McKenzie actually now responded saying that there are many among you, especially who want us South Africans to actually still live in the past. We have moved on. You can stay there. And this response was actually also met with a lot of applause also from many MPs present, to the point where Colonel Mulder, I think this is from the Freedom Front Plus, actually now invited Gayton McKenzie to the Vutreka monument. Now, during the debate, Freedom Front Plus leader Colonel Mulder invited Minister Gayton McKenzie to visit the Vutreka movement, which he described as a significant symbol of his and his family's history. McKenzie accepted the invitation, expressing a desire to go and see that history. Following the invitation, the Freedom Front Plus released a media statement praising McKenzie's openness about his background and challenges he has overcome. The statement highlighted that by being open and honest about his background and where he comes from, the minister taught everyone a lesson on how to rise above circumstances and reach the top. It demonstrates that anyone can make a positive difference to the circumstances of those around them. And also, the Freedom Front Plus leader actually wished McKenzie all the best for the important task ahead of him, and that the party, that's the EFF, the FF Plus, would actually do its part to cooperate and promote true nation building. Earlier that day, the Freedom Front Plus has actually issued a statement in Parliament noting that McKenzie's acceptance of the invitation to visit the Vutreka movement in Pretoria and also to learn about the Afrikaner cultural heritage. The monument holds significant symbolic value within the Afrikaner community, and the Freedom Front Plus believes that Mackenzie's visit would be beneficial for the minister. And we know that, you know, Mackenzie is usually, is usually not indifferent to visiting these Afrikaner regions. We saw how his visit to Oranje actually sparked a lot of media interest. Some blacks really opposed that move, while many actually endorsed it as one South African-ness. You see, so that has actually been a landmark for Gayton McKenzie. Anyway, Freedom Front Plus also emphasized the unique and critical role of sports, arts, and culture in South Africa, asserting that no other department can succeed amidst national division. Freedom Front Plus also stressed the importance of sport in nation building, while also noting that the current approach that is current now in South Africa is flawed, and sport alone cannot achieve unity. Art and culture are also essential components of the national building process. So anyway, this is where the whole thing with especially Distem is at the moment. McKenzie is not ready to take that out of the national anthem. He's not from a progressive perspective, and he's for a one South African-ness, you see. And so that's actually where the sports minister and the sports ministry in South Africa would actually be for the next 4 or 5 years, to be an all-encompassing ministry that will strive for togetherness and one South African-ness and help to bring unity, especially with Gayton McKenzie. That has actually been his mantra. The colours, the Indians, the whites, whatever it is that people still argue that makes South Africa still divided. McKenzie wants to bring all of those groups together to make one South Africa stand strong. But anyway, this is where I'll start here for this video. What do you guys think about McKenzie's speech here, the confrontation with Mokoena and the report? Share your thoughts in the comments.